If I was to ask you what the best ability in Kirby Fighters 2 was, you'd probably say, Silvery, this game came out almost a year ago, why are you still playing it? Listen, someone's gotta inform the people, and that someone might as well be me. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm a pro at Kirby Fighters 2, or any fighting game for that matter. I dabble a little in Skullgirls and Super Smash Bros, but calling me an expert on the subject I'm about to talk about is like calling me an expert at really anything that's not Kirby related. But while Kirby Fighters 2 is a fighting game, it's also a Kirby game, and who's more qualified to talk about that than me? Yeah, that's what I thought. Kirby Fighters 2 is a game that takes the gameplay of the modern Kirby games and adapts it into a fighting game. Your playable options include 17 different copy abilities, 4 of Kirby's friends, and that conniving scumbag Magolor. As is the case with any competitive video game where each playable option has different stats and moves, some are going to be objectively better than others. But which one is the best? There are a few copy abilities that I personally think are quite good. Let's go through those quickly before we crown the best. In a game called Kirby Fighters 2, it would be a crime if Fighter Kirby wasn't near the top. Abilities like Fighter and the newly introduced Wrestler naturally are better abilities simply because they have a lot of options. Jabs, projectiles, burst movement, anti-airs, moves that chain into each other, these two have it all. Then there's the longer range abilities, Staff, Bandana Waddle Dee, Yo-Yo. These abilities are great for keeping opponents at bay while still not being completely helpless in close quarters combat. And you can't have a fighting game without zoners, right? That's everyone's favorite archetype. Cutter is a really simple ability compared to a lot of the others included, but its ability to keep opponents away and cover large areas is truly unrivaled. Then there's Archer, which is decent in singles, but in doubles encourages the most disgusting campy gameplay I've ever seen. With all that said though, I'm sure you're all dying to know who I think is the #1 undisputed best. It's Magolor. The final boss that reached demigod levels of power is the best character in this fighting game. Color me surprised. Magolor's got it all, baby. Zoning options that can be charged to disgusting levels are just thrown out with goofy amounts of speed and control. A long burst option that can even drag in foes from behind him. 2 powerful forms of stage control. An invincible teleport to get out of every situation. This attack? There isn't a damn situation Magolor can't handle. He kind of struggles if your opponent can get in close, but as long as you keep using his projectiles and his teleport, you'll be fine. You'll be playing as lame as possible, but at least you won't be losing. Well, that was anticlimactic. Surely there's something else I can talk about to fill time. Well, if we know what ability is the best, what about the worst? It's Bell Kirby. Bell Kirby is the worst ability in Kirby Fighters 2. Why spend all this precious video length talking about why an ability is stupid busted when I can talk about why one is stupid garbage? That's way more fun for me, and hopefully more interesting for you. So, what makes Bell Kirby so unusable? Short answer, everything. Long answer, the most important thing for any character in any fighting game is options. It's why Little Mac is the butt of jokes in Smash Bros. If he's in any position other than ground level, he has no viable options. Bell Kirby is like that, except it has no options on the ground and even less in the air. Bell has one of the smallest move lists in the game, and unlike Cutter, which is great despite its simplicity, Bell's attacks lack range, power, synergy, speed. You know, it might just be easier to individually go through Bell's kit. Bell's basic attack is admittedly kind of appealing at first thought. It's a jab that combos into itself and deals a good amount of damage, even more so if every hit connects. That level of power off of something as easy to pull off as a jab is insane, especially when you can cancel it into a very powerful attack that even has some ranged properties. So despite all that praise, why is this move still hot garbage? Not only does the Ring Ding attack have pretty short range, but it's incredibly slow compared to other simple jab-like attacks in the game. It comes out on frame 16, about a quarter of a second, which might not seem too slow, but then you have jabs like Yo-Yo, Parasol, even lower tier abilities like Sword and Artist whose jabs are not only faster, but have better range. Even fellow bottom tier Hammer is faster and has a sour spot to increase its range, with a sweet spot able to deal 30 HP of damage in one swing. Bell's bread and butter attack is unfortunately outclassed by a lot of other attacks in the game. But what about that sweet, sweet combo that deals massive damage you can DI out of it? Pretty easily too, might I add. If you're playing against any player who knows how to influence their movement with directional input, you'll never land all the hits of the ring ding dong attack. And you might not be able to land the ding finale. I feel like a psychopath saying these move names. The reward for this attack is high, but the level of commitment needed to actually execute it properly, as well as how easy it is to escape, makes it a pretty terrible option. Sting Ding is an area of effect attack that has very similar range to Bell's basic attack, only deals 2 more HP of damage and comes out on frame 28. Yeah, this move's not great either. It does have slightly higher range, so it might be useful as a sort of anti-air, maybe. Twin Tinker is Bell's best attack, but it's not without its flaws. It might be fast, but it doesn't deal a lot of damage, and it doesn't travel as far as other burst movement options. And while it hits on both sides, the Bells have a really wonky trajectory when launched that makes it hard to land hits. If your foe doesn't act out of this, you might be able to follow it up with a ring ding attack, but that's only if you're close enough, and that's honestly a best case scenario for Bell. Tinker Melody is one of the worst moves I've ever seen in a fighting game. 49 HP sounds like a lot of damage, but off of over a second of startup that you're almost completely immobilized for, this attack is atrociously bad. Quick Finale is just the final hit of the ding finale, but you can fire it off at any point. It's like a combination of Sting Ding and Twin Tinker, so it's actually one of Bell's best options. You have to hold for a good while before you can even initiate this attack. Another attack that takes around a second to use, but at least this one has more utility than Tinker Melody. And that's it. That's every move in Bell's arsenal. You might be thinking, well Silvery, none of these moves chain into each other. And you're right. These attacks have no synergy with each other, very little combo potential, way too much startup, way too little range, and on top of all of that, you can't even air dodge. Oh, you thought we were done? On top of everything wrong with all of Bell's attacks, Bell has a unique blocking mechanic, the Bell Block. Pros, it negates all damage and shoots out a small blast that deals damage and knocks opponents back. Cons, the shockwaves are very weak and don't scale with the attack they deflect. The distance it pushes opponents back is just far enough that the only follow-up is Quick Finale. Long range abilities and projectiles can easily force Bell out of it or outright break it. And I think there's something I'm missing, just one little thing. Oh yeah, you can't dodge at all. No rolls, no spot dodges, no air dodges, 100% susceptibility to grabs, and even susceptibility to most command grabs. Using this attack in midair is like using Stone Kirby but without the hitbox. Using it on the ground makes you a sitting duck, and using Bell Kirby and Kirby Fighters 2 makes you the laughingstock of all your friends. With the other abilities in this game that are typically thought of as bottom tiers, I can at least see what they were going for. Beetle is a grappler, Hammer is a slow but powerful ability. Artist is actually pretty good in doubles, and King DDD is Hammer with a bigger hitbox, slightly more health, and a few tricks of his own. But with Bell Kirby, I don't understand. It's a shame too, since all the other abilities were copied one for one from the past Kirby games, and all made the jump from action platformer to fighting game really well. Even the more unusual ones like Beam, Bomb, Cutter, and Parasol. Bell, on the other hand, I think this ability needs a retooling, or at least new moves, or it should just stay in Kirby Triple Deluxe. It's the worst playable option in this game, and one of the worst playable options in any fighting game as decreed by me. A guy who doesn't play fighting games. Thanks for watching.